At my mother's birthday party, she fixed me with a sharp look and delivered a remark that cut deeper than any blade. "Alvin, you'll never measure up to your brother. Chase is the one who takes care of this family." My heart pounded in my chest as I stood abruptly, meeting her gaze. "If that's the case," I shot back, "then let Chase pay all the bills from now on. I won't send another dime." The room fell into stunned silence. My parents' eyes widened, mouths half open. "What money? We've never received a cent from you," my father said. I pulled out my phone, opened my bank statements, and let the truth speak for itself. The family was frozen, astonished by the reality I had quietly built. My name is Alvin Grant, born and raised in Beckley, West Virginia, a small town tucked among green hills where everyone knows each other's stories, and family tales are shared over simple dinners. But my childhood was far from that warm image. It was a series of long, lonely days in the shadow of unfair comparisons. I was always the one falling short, while my younger brother, Chase, shone effortlessly, admired by everyone around him. From a young age, I learned to exist on the sidelines, a supporting character in my own family's narrative. Chase, for years my junior, possessed a rare charisma. Energetic, articulate, effortlessly charming, he could win over any adult with a smile or a well-timed joke. He was the golden child, the one cherished and celebrated. At every gathering, eyes followed him, laughter followed him, while I sat quietly, hoping for a word or gesture that rarely came. My father, Gordon Grant, worked as a coal miner, spending long days in dark, dusty tunnels, returning home with coal-streaked skin and calloused hands. He was a man of few words, but when he spoke, it was often to praise Chase. My mother, Monica Grant, worked as an accountant, balancing ledgers and bills with precision. But she always found time to boast to neighbors about her clever son. They didn't mean to hurt me, I know, but their favoritism left its mark, layering over time like dust clinging stubbornly to a forgotten surface. My parents overlooked me under the guise of reason, but the truth was simple. I was quiet, reserved, and clumsy with small talk, while Chase could command a room effortlessly. Academically, I did well enough, though never spectacularly. Chase, on the other hand, excelled in every activity imaginable: soccer, school plays, community events, earning praise, medals, and recognition that I never received. I loved science fiction, tinkering with technology, disassembling an old computer my father had bought at a second-hand store, trying to understand its secrets. To them, it was dry, unremarkable, almost a flaw to be corrected. The constant comparisons became a quiet, smoldering wound. "You need to learn from your brother," my father would say, glancing at my report card. My grades were steady, respectable, but meaningless when set against Chase's celebrated accomplishments. I felt like a shadow trailing behind him, unnoticed and unnecessary. I never resented Chase. I loved my little brother. But every comparison built walls around me, invisible yet impenetrable, a shield for a fragile heart. One memory still haunts me. One Christmas afternoon, we gathered around the tree. Chase sang Jingle Bells and received applause. I held a small LED lamp I had built from spare parts, hoping to delight my parents. When I offered it, my mother glanced at it dismissively. "You should spend more time playing with your brother instead of wasting time on these useless things," she said. I nodded, swallowed my disappointment, and retreated to my room. In the darkness, I wondered, would I ever be good enough in their eyes? Would I always be that shadow? Those quiet, invisible wounds shaped my childhood. I sought refuge in books and technology, spaces where I could exist without comparison. Yet even in those moments, I longed for recognition. I wanted my parents to see me, not as Chase's shadow, but as Alvin, different, quiet, but valuable in my own right. As I entered my teenage years, I hoped for change, for a corner of the world where I could shine. But Chase's shadow only grew larger, darker. My high school years reinforced the feeling that I was invisible, overlooked in the very family I loved. At Beckley High School, I was still the quiet, reserved Alvin, with hardly any close friends. I never fit easily into the crowd. The bustling hallways, groups of laughing friends, school dances, they all felt alien to me. I preferred sitting alone in the library, flipping through books on electronics, or in the computer lab, typing my first lines of code on the school's outdated PCs. I found joy in taking apart circuits or writing small programs, but that joy belonged solely to me. To my classmates, I was just a weird kid glued to his computer. To my teachers, I was a good student, competent but unremarkable. Chase, by contrast, was a star. He joined the basketball team, emceed school events, and had a way of making people laugh effortlessly. Teachers adored him, not just for his energy, but for his ability to charm adults. Once, I overheard my homeroom teacher talking to my mother during a parent-teacher conference. "Chase is truly an outstanding student, full of energy and initiative," she said. My mother beamed as if the praise were her own achievement. Then she added, almost in passing, "Alvin does fine, but he needs to be more outgoing." I sat in the corner, listening to my mother agree, feeling another pebble drop into the pit of my chest. At home, comparisons continued, sharper than ever, as if my parents were determined to ingrain in me that I would never measure up to Chase. "Look at your brother," my father would say, pride brimming in his voice. "Chase brings home medals, praise, success. And you? You keep being quiet. What are you going to achieve?" My mother was gentler, but her words cut deeper. "Alvin, you need to learn to talk, to connect like your brother. Life will be hard if you can't communicate with people." I nodded silently. Every word felt like a quiet slash to a wound that never truly healed. It wasn't for lack of trying. I worked diligently at school, maintained steady grades, and nurtured a dream of becoming an engineer. Engineering fascinated me, the way circuits linked, the way lines of code could bring a system to life. It was logical, consistent, and non-judgmental. In that world I had value. I researched colleges, focusing on West Virginia University for its engineering program. I dreamed of standing in a lab, creating something of my own, proving I didn't need to be like Chase to succeed. But I kept that dream to myself because whenever I mentioned engineering, my mother would shake her head. "What good will those machines do? You should learn to communicate like your brother." In an effort to impress them, I joined the school's science club. Our team built a small model rocket and was selected to present it at the science fair. I prepared nervously, hoping this would finally make them see me differently. On the day of the fair, however, Chase had an important basketball game. Both my parents went to cheer for him, leaving me on stage, presenting our project to an empty audience. Later at home, my mother said only, "I was busy watching your brother's game. Next time, let me know so I can plan." I nodded, silently realizing there would be no next time. Receiving my acceptance letter from West Virginia University's electrical engineering program felt like a shaft of light piercing through a long, dark tunnel. Standing at the university gates, gazing at lecture halls and state-of-the-art labs, I told myself, "This is where I belong." College wasn't just about learning. It was about stepping out of Chase's shadow and proving my worth in my own way. The early days in Morgantown were like discovering an oasis. I immersed myself in labs, tinkering with circuits, coding small programs, watching systems come to life. Each successful program, each small victory, made my heart race. I didn't need applause, just the quiet knowledge that I was closer to my dream. While I buried myself in studies and part-time jobs to cover tuition, Chase charted a different path. He dropped out after 1 year, claiming school was restrictive, then threw himself into freelance business ventures, grandiose, vague, and high risk. He frequently called home, recounting ambitious investment plans, supposed city connections, and life-changing ideas. Whenever he visited, he presented himself like a star, new clothes, the latest gadgets, spinning stories of contracts that seemed larger than life. I silently wondered where the money came from, given his lack of steady income. As usual, my parents admired him. "Chase dares to take risks," my father said proudly, while I sat quietly with my glass of water. "You, Alvin, just work a regular job. What will that get you? Learn from your brother and dream big. The words burned, salt on an old wound. I wanted to scream that I was working tirelessly, scrimping and saving for tuition, rent, and costly textbooks, but I stayed silent. Speaking up never changed anything. What hurt most was how my parents supported Chase without a thought for my struggles, without recognizing the quiet diligence I poured into building my future. Chase often asked my parents for money, sometimes for a supposedly promising tech app, other times to wine and dine business contacts at upscale restaurants. My parents never hesitated to dip into their savings or even take out loans to fund him. Chase needs this chance to succeed, my mom would say, as if it were the most obvious truth in the world. Meanwhile, I had to fend for myself in college. Tuition, rent, food, textbooks, all of it depended on grueling part-time jobs. I worked as a barista at a local coffee shop, washed dishes at a restaurant, and occasionally repaired computers for my dorm mates to earn a little extra. Once, I nervously called my mom to ask for a small sum to buy a technical book required for a class. She sighed heavily on the other end. Things are tight, Alvin. I just sent money to Chase for his project. You'll have to manage. I hung up, staring at the stack of second-hand books on my desk in my small rented room, telling myself I had to try harder. My college years were relentless, an endless cycle of studying, working, and chasing my engineering dreams. I maintained high grades and earned an internship at a small tech firm in Morgantown, working alongside real engineers. Excited, I called my parents to share the news, hoping they'd be proud. That's good, Alvin, my mom mumbled. Keep being independent. I stopped sharing after that, confiding only in a few close friends who understood the value of the code I wrote or the circuits I designed. Meanwhile, Chase flaunted himself on social media, photos of sleek cars, check-ins at exclusive bars, expensive watches with captions like, "The road to success is never easy." I stared at those posts, wondering where the money came from when our parents, who'd spent their lives saving, were struggling to support him. Once I overheard my mom bragging to a neighbor about Chase's big project, her voice full of pride, while I was referred to only as Alvin, who's in college, probably going to be an engineer. Even from afar, Chase's shadow weighed heavily on me. Every call home brought the same story, endless praise for Chase, perfunctory questions for me. How's school? Doing okay. I'd answer, knowing they didn't truly care. I still loved my family and cared for Chase, but the constant feeling of being overlooked pushed me further inward. I vowed to prove my worth, not through flashy achievements or loud proclamations, but through hard work and perseverance. I wanted to become a skilled engineer, to build a stable life, not to outshine Chase, but to simply be Alvin, a person of quiet value, distinct from him. After 4 exhausting years at West Virginia University, I graduated with a degree in electrical engineering and a job offer from a tech company in Austin, Texas. Holding that letter in my hand, I felt the world opening up before me. Austin was a far cry from the quiet streets of Beckley, towering buildings, bustling coffee shops, and a thriving tech scene. My role as a software engineer allowed me to work on innovative projects alongside passionate colleagues. My salary was comfortable, but I chose a frugal lifestyle. A small apartment, simple meals, and most of my earnings went toward repaying lingering student loans. I didn't need luxury cars or flashy watches, things Chase always flaunted. For me, stability was priceless, a reward earned through years of sleepless nights and exhausting part-time shifts. Then came a phone call from my mom that changed everything. "Dad has to retire early," she said. "His lungs can't handle the coal mine work anymore." And I had to cut back to part-time. "We're barely making ends meet." Hearing the worry in her voice, thinking of utility bills and medication costs, made my chest tighten. I decided to send money each month to support them. It wasn't easy, living in Austin wasn't cheap, but I couldn't watch my parents struggle. Every month, I set aside about $2,500, quietly sending it without making a show of it. There was a complication, though. My parents, especially Mom, weren't tech-savvy. They preferred cash, and every time I mentioned banking apps, she'd sigh. I thought of Chase, still living in Beckley, near our parents. I called him, proposing a solution. I'd transfer the money to his account, and he'd withdraw it in cash to give to them directly. Quick and simple, I said. Chase agreed immediately, his voice full of enthusiasm. Don't worry, big bro. I've got this. I trusted him. Despite his flashy lifestyle and occasional irresponsibility, he was still my little brother. Every month, I transferred the money, including a note in the transaction description for our parents. I believed he'd do the right thing. I never checked in to see if the money had reached my parents, nor did I ask my mom. I assumed it was handled. All I wanted was for them to live more comfortably, quietly, without drawing attention to myself. I told myself that even if they never acknowledged my efforts, at least I was fulfilling my duty as a son. In Austin, my life was gradually finding its rhythm. My job as a software engineer gave me stability and genuine satisfaction. I loved mornings spent at the office, black coffee in hand, coding by the window while watching the city pulse below. But even miles from home, my responsibility toward my parents remained a constant undercurrent in my life. After setting up the $2,500 monthly transfers through Chase, I continued with my work and routine, convinced I was doing the right thing quietly. I imagined my mom using the money to buy my dad's medicine, fix the leaking roof, or simply live a little easier. I didn't call to confirm because I trusted Chase, the brother who had grown up alongside me in Beckley, to manage things responsibly. Looking back, that trust was likely my greatest mistake. Occasionally, my mom's voice would reach me over the phone, filled with concern. Your dad's medicine is so expensive, Alvin, she said. The roof is leaking again. It cost $1,000 to fix. Each time, my chest tightened. I'd increase the amount I sent, sometimes $2,700, sometimes $3,000. Even if it meant cutting back on my own expenses in Austin, eating less, skipping outings with colleagues. I didn't complain. I just wanted my parents to live without the stress they had endured raising us. Meanwhile, Chase's spending grew more extravagant. Social media showed him posing with a new SUV, a designer watch glinting under upscale lighting, drinks in hand at high-end bars. Confident captions accompanied every post, big work, big life. I wondered where the money was coming from, since his freelance projects were often vague and unprofitable. I dismissed the doubts, telling myself that maybe he had finally struck gold, that his investments had paid off. Deep down, though, a small voice nagged at me, warning that something didn't feel right. Then Pamela entered my life, like sunlight breaking through clouds. She worked in the company's marketing department, with a radiant smile and eyes that actually listened. Our first connection came in brief lunchtime conversations. I talked awkwardly about stubborn coding bugs, she shared stories about new ad campaigns. Gradually, after-work coffee dates became our routine, and our bond deepened. Pamela wasn't just a girlfriend. She became my confidant. She helped me forget the relentless workdays, the sleepless nights worrying about money, and the lingering sting of comparisons to Chase. One evening, sitting on a park bench under the soft glow of streetlights, I told her about my childhood in Beckley, about living in Chase's shadow, and about the money I was sending to my parents through him. She listened quietly, then took my hand. Alvin, you're doing something remarkable for your parents, but you need to be more transparent. Let them know it's you sending the money so they can appreciate your heart. I smiled and shook my head. No need for that. I just want things to be simple, discreet. Pamela's eyes filled with concern. You trust Chase too much. Be careful. Not everyone is what they seem. Our time together became a kind of healing. Pamela took me to small live music shows, taught me how to dance despite my clumsiness, and cooked simple dinners with me in my apartment. One evening, exhausted from a work project, I came home to find her with a plate of homemade cookies. We sat on the couch watching a comedy, laughing until our sides ached. You don't need to be like anyone else, she said, resting her head on my shoulder. You're Alvin. That's enough. Those moments with Pamela made me feel lighter, as if Chase's long shadow was finally receding, replaced by the warmth of her presence. Yet her words about transparency lingered in my mind. I didn't want to suspect Chase of wrongdoing, but the flashy social media posts, the new car, the extravagant parties began to stir a vague unease in me. I had no idea that unease was leading me toward a painful truth. One that would erupt at my mother's birthday party, shattering my trust and turning everything I thought I knew about my family upside down. My mother's 65th birthday marked my first return to Beckley after nearly a year in Austin. I wanted to make it special. I had spent weeks preparing a gift, a compact digital camera, simple to use with a large screen and easy to press buttons, perfect for Mom, who had once mentioned wanting to capture family moments and the daisies in her garden. I went to an electronics store in Austin, testing every model, weighing brands carefully. Pamela even helped me check the features, making sure Mom would love it. "Your mom is going to adore this," Pamela said, her eyes sparkling as we wrapped the camera in green paper, Mom's favorite color. We wrote a card that read, "Happy birthday, Mom, from Alvin and Pamela." Pamela agreed to come to Beckley, not just for the party but to meet my family. I was nervous beyond words. This was my first time bringing a girlfriend home. I wanted my family to see the new me, a stable, mature Alvin with a solid job and a partner I respected and loved. On the flight from Austin, I sat beside Pamela, gazing at drifting white clouds. She took my hand and whispered, "Don't worry. Everything will be fine. I'm excited to meet your parents, even if they're a little biased, like you said." I smiled, though my chest felt heavy. I had told Pamela about my childhood, about living in Chase's shadow, about constantly being compared to him. But I still hoped this party would give my parents a chance to see me differently, without comparison. The drive from the airport wound through familiar roads, the green hills of Beckley standing quietly like old memories. Our family home came into view, the porch chipped, the roof weathered, Mom's garden blooming with yellow daisies. I stepped out, inhaling the scent of damp grass, feeling the air of home wrap around me. Pamela pulled her small suitcase, looking as natural as if she belonged there. Mom was thinner than the last time I'd seen her, silver streaking her hair. I hugged her, feeling the fragile weight of time. Dad sat in an armchair, coughing lightly, his pale face a map of years spent in the mines, yet he managed a smile when he saw me. I introduced Pamela, and Mom embraced her warmly. "Come in. Don't be shy." Pamela smiled back. "Thank you. I've heard so much about you from Alvin." Chase appeared shortly after, stepping out of the kitchen in a sharp navy suit, white shirt, and a gleaming watch. He clapped me on the shoulder with a loud laugh. "You're back, huh?" "Still the tech guy. Never change." I smiled, forcing myself not to notice my mom's fleeting glance, which barely lingered on me before settling on Chase, silently comparing us. Pamela leaned close. "Your brother sure knows how to steal the spotlight." I nodded, saying nothing. The party unfolded in the living room, decked with gold, tinsel, and balloons. The dining table held cakes, homemade cookies, and a vase of daisies freshly picked by Mom. Relatives mingled, laughter and chatter filling the air. Aunt Linda, who always fawned over Chase, and Uncle Frank, prone to storytelling, were there, along with a few close neighbors. Pamela blended in seamlessly, chatting with Aunt Linda about her marketing job in Austin and the campaigns she designed. I watched her, a mix of pride and unease twisting in my chest. I wanted my family to see Pamela as more than a girlfriend, as someone who understood me, who valued me. But, as usual, the conversation veered toward Chase. Aunt Linda, mid-sip of tea, turned to him, her voice brimming with admiration. "Chase, you're such a wonderful son. Sending money to your parents every month, right on time. This family is lucky to have you." Others nodded, chiming in. "Exactly. That boy knows how to take care of his family. Not like some who only live for themselves." My chest tightened. Pamela squeezed my hand under the table, her eyes silently urging, "Don't let it get to you." Mom, as if pouring fuel on the fire, fixed me with a reproachful stare. Alvin, why can't you be even a fraction like Chase? You should learn from him. Chase is taking care of this whole family. You know that. Her words, sharp as knives, cut into wounds I'd spent years trying to bury. Pamela gripped my hand tighter, whispering, "Stay calm, Alvin. Don't let them hurt you." But calm had left me long ago. Years of holding back, of comparisons, of quietly sending money without acknowledgement, erupted inside me like a wildfire. I stood abruptly. The wooden chair scraped across the floor, startling everyone. My voice shook but was steady. "If that's the case, then from now on, let Chase handle all the bills. I'll stop sending money." Silence fell, thick and suffocating. My parents' eyes widened in shock. Dad's frail voice croaked, "What money? We've never received anything from you." Mom's tone was sharp, almost cutting. "Alvin, don't talk nonsense. You're off working far away. When have you ever sent anything?" Blood rushed to my head, a mix of pain and fury. Pamela's hand on mine gave a small, grounding pressure. I inhaled deeply, pulled out my phone, and opened my banking app. My fingers scrolled through the transaction history, each line as clear as daylight. $2,500 every month, sometimes $2,700, sometimes $3,000, all transferred to Chase's account with a note for our parents. I held the screen up, my voice calm but icy. "For the past 2 years, I've sent money to Chase to give to you. You say I don't care. Then what's this?" The room went utterly silent. Mom's mouth fell open, her hands trembling as if she wanted to touch the screen. Dad straightened, eyes wide. "Alvin, is this true?" Relatives murmured, their admiration for Chase replaced with suspicion. Aunt Linda whispered, "My God, what's going on?" Uncle Frank, usually quiet, leaned forward, voice stern. "Chase, what's this about?" Pamela couldn't stay silent. She stood, voice soft but firm. "Alvin has worked tirelessly to take care of this family. He didn't want to boast, but everyone needs to know the truth. He sent money every month, living frugally in Austin, working day and night to earn it. This is the truth." Her eyes met mine, offering both strength and concern. "You're not wrong, Alvin. They need to know." The small living room, once filled with laughter and childhood memories, now felt like the stage of a tense drama. The ceiling bulb cast harsh shadows on stunned faces. Gold tinsel and balloons for Mom's birthday seemed absurd in the heavy air. Mom sat frozen, hands trembling, eyes glued to the phone screen. Dad, despite his frailty, sat straighter, disbelief etched on his face. Relatives whispered, exchanging glances between me and Chase, trying to process what had just erupted. Mom was the first to speak. Her voice trembled. "Chase, you told me that money was from you. You said you were providing for us." Her eyes were full of pain and shock, as if the foundation of her world had crumbled. Chase lowered his head, face flushing, hands clenching into fists. He said nothing, a child caught in wrongdoing. I stood silently, heart pounding, not from anger, but from the pain of betrayal. My younger brother, whom I had trusted completely, had shattered that trust. Pamela turned to Mom, her gaze sincere but firm. "Alvin loves this family. He doesn't deserve to be misunderstood like this." Her words were a cool breeze, calming the storm raging inside me. Dad, his voice quivering from illness but steady with disappointment, addressed Chase. "Speak, Chase. What's the deal with that money? What did you do with what your brother sent?" Chase lifted his head, eyes darting away, stammering. I didn't mean to, Dad. I just borrowed it for a bit. I was going to pay it back later." Chase drew a shaky breath, finally unable to bear the weight of all eyes on him. I kept most of the money," he confessed, voice trembling. "I only gave you and Mom a little, just a few hundred a month, so you'd think I was taking care of the family. I needed the rest to pay off debts, to keep up appearances. I didn't want you to be disappointed in me." The room fell silent again, heavier this time, as if everyone were trying to digest the magnitude of his admission. All those months I had scrimped and saved, lived frugally, worked overtime to send money home, it had all been used by Chase to maintain his image as the perfect son. I looked at him, searching for the little brother who had once chased me around the backyard, shared cookies Mom baked with me. But in front of me now was a young man, flushed with shame, avoiding my gaze. Pamela, standing beside me, spoke softly but clearly to the room. Alvin didn't want to make a scene. He just wanted his parents to live comfortably, without worry. But I think from now on, things need to be clear. Alvin deserves to be recognized, not for the money, but for the heart behind it. She turned to me, eyes warm. You make me proud, Alvin. I know you didn't want to boast, but today you had to speak up to protect yourself. Her words were like a cool breeze, soothing the storm raging inside me, but they also reminded me that if I had listened to her advice earlier, none of this might have happened. After a long pause, Chase finally spoke, voice quivering. Alvin, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I got in over my head. My projects, they weren't like I said. I lost money, piled up debts, and I needed the money to keep up appearances so Mom and Dad wouldn't be disappointed. He bowed his head, voice choking. I was wrong. I didn't think it would go this far. His confession left me torn, angry because he had lied and used me, yet pitying because he was my brother, trapped by expectations he set for himself. The truth about Chase unfolded fully. The grand projects he flaunted on social media, the SUV, the designer watch, the lavish parties, they were all funded by loans, debts, and most painfully, by the money I had sent for our parents. He'd given Mom and Dad only a few hundred a month, just enough for them to believe he was the perfect son. I stared at him, heart aching between disappointment and sorrow. The distance between us wasn't just personality, it was honesty. Mom covered her face, sobbing. She gripped my hand, voice shaking. Alvin, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were doing so much. I was wrong all these years. Dad, voice heavy with regret, looked at me. I was wrong, Alvin. I always thought you didn't care about the family, that Chase was the one looking out for us. I never imagined it was you. He trailed off, unable to find words. For the first time, I felt truly seen, not as Chase's shadow, but as their son. The relatives in the room murmured. Aunt Linda, long an admirer of Chase, quietly set down her teacup, eyes confused. Uncle Frank looked at me, voice low. Alvin, I had no idea you were quietly doing so much. Even a neighbor whispered, incredulous. Turns out Alvin's been carrying the family. I scanned the room, heart a mixture of pain and relief. The truth was out, but it didn't bring the simple joy I had imagined. I'd only wanted my parents to live comfortably, free from worry. Now I realized trust had been broken, and favoritism had clouded the family for years. Chase looked up, remorse written across his face. Alvin, I'll pay it back. I promise I'll make it right. But I didn't know if that promise could be trusted. All I knew was that from this moment, nothing in our family would ever be the same. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice calm as I addressed my parents. Mom, Dad, I never wanted it to come to this. All I ever wanted was for you to live comfortably, without worry. But what just happened has made me rethink everything. I can't continue like before. Mom's eyes filled with tears, as if she was about to speak. I raised a hand gently to stop her. I have conditions if you want me to keep supporting you, I said, voice steady but firm. First, I don't want to hear any more comparisons between me and Chase. I've lived my whole life in his shadow, and I'm done with it. I am Alvin, not some lesser version of Chase. I looked at Mom, then Dad, eyes calm but unwavering. Second, I continued, from now on, every expense must be transparent. I'll send money directly to you, or I'll pay the bills myself. I need to know that my support is being used for its intended purpose. And third, Chase has to contribute as well. If he wants to be part of this family, He has to take responsibility, not just make empty promises. The room fell silent. Mom nodded slowly, tears still streaming down her cheeks. Alvin. I agree, she said, voice thick with emotion. I was wrong to compare you to your brother. I promise I won't do it again. I only wanted our family to be harmonious, but I made so many mistakes. Dad added, voice steady but weary. I agree, Alvin. You're right. From now on, everything will be transparent. We won't let this happen again. Chase, still bowing his head, finally lifted his gaze. His face was flushed, eyes full of shame, but also a flicker of determination. Alvin, he said, voice trembling, I know I was wrong. I'm not just apologizing. I'll make this right. I'll help Mom and Dad, I'll live responsibly, and I'll contribute. I don't want to lose this family, and I don't want you to think badly of me forever. Though I wasn't entirely sure I could trust him, his words softened my heart. Pamela, sitting beside me, gave a faint smile. You did well, Alvin, she whispered. Setting boundaries is necessary, and I believe your family will understand. She turned to Mom, voice gentle. Ma'am, I know this is difficult, but Alvin only wants fairness and transparency. He loves you both so much. Mom nodded, gripping Pamela's hand, her smile tentative as if words failed her. What was supposed to be a joyful celebration had become a turning point for our family. Mom wiped her tears and stood, hugging me tightly. My son, I'm so proud of you, she said, voice trembling. I'll never forget what you've done. Dad, unable to stand, grasped my hand, eyes full of gratitude. A small spark of warmth bloomed in my chest. Not because of recognition, but because for the first time, I felt my family's love unclouded by comparison. The birthday party ended quietly. No one cut the cake or raised glasses. Relatives left slowly, whispers of Chase and the truth lingering in the air. Pamela held my hand, a steady anchor in the storm. Are you okay? She asked softly. I nodded. Inside, though, I knew I needed time to process everything. Relief that I was finally seen mingled with pain at the betrayal. I looked at Mom, Dad, and Chase, wondering if we could truly heal. In the months that followed, I returned to Austin with a renewed resolve. I continued my work as a software engineer, but now I cared for my parents on my own terms, with clear boundaries. I opened a joint bank account with Mom, teaching her how to check the balance through an app, though she still muttered that it was too complicated. I sent money directly, $2,500 each month, sometimes adding more when unexpected expenses arose, like plumbing repairs or Dad's medication. This time, everything was transparent. I sent receipts, called to confirm transfers, and asked for verification. I don't want the past to repeat itself, I told her gently over video call. Mom nodded, eyes filled with gratitude. I understand, Alvin. I won't let it happen again. True to their word, Mom and Dad changed. They stopped comparing me to Chase, no longer mentioning the clever younger brother or the pride of the family. Instead, Mom called often, asking about my work in Austin. Being an engineer must be tough, right? She asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. For the first time, I felt she was truly interested in my world, the world of code and circuits. Dad, despite his failing health, proudly told neighbors about Alvin, the engineer in the city. One day he called me, voice warm. I'm proud of you, Alvin. I wish I had seen it sooner. Those simple words were balm, healing old scars. Chase, after the party, struggled to rebuild his life. He admitted that his grand projects were failures, leaving him in debt to banks, friends, and loan sharks. Alvin, I tried so hard to succeed, to make Mom and Dad proud, he said over the phone, regret heavy in his voice. But I went down the wrong path. I advised him to find a stable job and start fresh. He listened. For the first time, I saw him take his promise seriously. He found work at an auto repair shop in Beckley, modest pay but enough to cover expenses and contribute $300 monthly to our parents. Not much, but a real effort to live responsibly. Mom told me. Chase is spending more time at home, helping Dad fix the fence or coming with me to the market. He's trying, Alvin. I know he was wrong, but I believe he'll change. I felt relief, not just for Chase's efforts, but because I had finally stepped out of the shadow of comparison. I no longer needed to compete or prove my worth. I was Alvin, a software engineer, a son, a man living true to his values. My work in Austin thrived. I was promoted to project team leader, guiding a team of young engineers. Pamela remained by my side, supporting me through long days and restless nights worrying about my family. She became more than a confidant. She was a living reminder that I deserved to be loved, respected, and seen for who I truly am. A year after that unforgettable birthday party, Pamela and I decided to get married. We chose a small church on the outskirts of Austin, with warm sunlight streaming through stained glass windows onto rustic wooden pews. Pamela, with her impeccable sense of style, insisted on adding white daisies reminiscent of Mom's garden and an acoustic band playing gentle love songs. I had wanted a simple wedding, but Pamela transformed it into an intimate, heartfelt celebration filled with small touches that made me smile: handwritten cards for guests, a dessert table with homemade cookies, and a photo booth framed with our names. "This is our day, Alvin," she said, her eyes sparkling. "But it's also a day for your family to see how happy you are." Chase attended as well, dressed modestly this time, without flashy watches or designer suits. He hugged me and said, "Congratulations, Alvin. I'm trying to be a better person." I nodded, choosing not to dwell on the past, but deep down, I hoped he would keep his word. The wedding was full of joy, completely free from comparisons or favoritism. Relatives from Beckley, including Aunt Linda and Uncle Frank, were there, and this time they spoke of me with genuine admiration. "Alvin's truly a wonderful son," Aunt Linda said, her gaze finally focused on me, not Chase. I smiled, finally feeling the fairness I had waited for my whole life. When Pamela walked down the aisle in her white dress, my heart seemed to stop. She looked like a dream, her hair falling softly, her eyes shining in the sunlight. The band played a gentle acoustic melody, and as she reached for my hand, I knew this wasn't just a new beginning for me, it was a new chapter for our family. The ceremony radiated love and unity. As we exchanged vows, I looked into Pamela's eyes. "I promise to love and cherish you the way you helped me find myself again." Pamela's voice trembled with emotion. "And I promise to always stand by you, Alvin, no matter what happens." We exchanged rings, and when I kissed her, applause erupted. I looked at my parents, Mom wiping tears, Dad smiling, and at Chase, who stood quietly in the corner, giving a small, approving nod. My family, once fractured by favoritism and lies, was beginning to find its way toward love, fairness, and honesty. In the years that followed, Pamela and I built a life full of joy. We bought a modest home in Austin with a small garden where Pamela planted daisies just like Mom's in Beckley. I continued my work at the tech company, and Pamela launched a small marketing consultancy, thriving with creativity and passion. We often visited my parents, bringing thoughtful gifts, a new camera for Mom, a comfortable armchair for Dad. Now my parents greeted us with smiles, talking not about Chase but about Mom's garden, Dad's health, and our life in Austin. "As long as you're happy, I'm happy," Mom said, her eyes free of any lingering favoritism. Chase, after years of struggle, finally found his path. He paid off his debts with a steady job at the auto repair shop and later opened a small garage in Beckley. His business wasn't the grandiose venture he once boasted about, but it allowed him to take pride in his accomplishments. He continued sending $300 a month to our parents, sometimes adding more when he could. He began making up for past mistakes, not just financially, but through action, fixing the roof, taking Dad to appointments, sharing meals with Mom. One day he called me, voice sincere. "Alvin, I know I messed up, but I'm trying to be someone you can be proud of." I smiled, replying, "Keep trying, Chase. I believe in you." And for the first time, I truly did. Our lives as brothers, once overshadowed by lies and favoritism, had found a balance. I no longer lived in Chase's shadow, and he no longer chased impossible expectations. Our family, though imperfect, had learned to love each other openly, fairly, and with honesty. Looking back, from the quiet boy in Beckley to the man standing beside Pamela, I realized that family bonds can only thrive when built on transparency and fairness. Love without fairness ceases to be a refuge and becomes a wound difficult to heal. Only when each person is valued for who they are can a family truly endure, not as a shadow that confines a life, but as a home to return to.